So lads, today the referees gave the report on the situation, and it's even worse. It's even worse than I imagined, and it was pretty grim.
Fans are going crazy at the WNBA referees' absurd justifications for targeting Caitlin Clark while shielding her attackers, which are somehow much worse than we anticipated when they released their official report on the Connecticut Sun debacle. This revelation validates all of our suspicions regarding dishonest officiating in the league.
Why was JC Sheldon's foul upgrade the flagrant one? In the judgment of the officials, the foul by Sheldon was unnecessary. The contact to Clark's face. Furthermore, there was a wind-up and impact, and the contact to face carries potential for injury. How did you come to the conclusion that that is a flagrant one? How did you come up to the conclusion that it was unnecessary? There was a wind-up, and it was to the face. The three of them that is a flagrant 2. By definition, you have described a flagrant 2.
Do you believe the WNBA is purposefully attempting to undermine Caitlin Clark after witnessing the referees' pitiful justifications when my occurred from 47 to 2 minutes to 21? The official referee report from the Connecticut Sun versus Indiana Fever game was just released, and I'm here to tell you that it's the most damning piece of evidence we've ever seen about corrupt WNBA officiating. These officials not only failed at their jobs, but they also revealed that they were completely biased against Caitlin Clark while also shielding the players who attacked her. Let me explain this complete farce, because every single explanation makes the officiating appear even worse than it already was. The referees essentially acknowledged everything that fans have been yelling about, while somehow believing their explanations made sense. Let's first discuss their justification for why JCS Sheldon's eye-gouging attack on Clark was only classified as a flagrant 1 rather than the clear flagrant 2 and ejection that it should have been. It's similar to witnessing someone confess to a murder while maintaining their innocence. Read it again slowly, since the referee just detailed a textbook flagrant 2 while describing why they called it a flagrant 1. Sheldon's foul was deemed needless because it involved a wind-up impact to Clark's face that could have caused harm.
Unnecessary contact. Wind up and unnecessary. The two of those can be a flagrant 2. And face. You have described why was it a flagrant 2. You have just described a flagrant 2 as your answer for why it was upgraded.
Unnecessary contact, wind-up, and injury potential are 2 requirements for a flagrant 2. The referees explained why it wasn't a flagrant 2 by actually listing all 3 components. It would be like claiming someone committed murder while defending your decision to just charge them with jaywalking, since their utter lack of reason reveals how predetermined their choice was. The fact that Sheldon's attack had nothing to do with basketball and that Clark was dribbling with her left hand when Sheldon clawed her right eye makes it even more infuriating. This wasn't an unintentional collision during a basketball play. Rather, it was a calculated attempt to hurt the league's biggest star, but the referees managed to downplay it. Let's now look at their pitiful justification for not ejecting Marina Mabrey after running across the court to body check Clark to the ground during a dead ball situation. The referee stated that Mabrey's contact did not qualify for a severe penalty and did not escalate to the point of an ejection. Apparently, as long as it's directed at Caitlin Clark, assault during a dead ball is not considered. Even casual fans were calling for her ejection in real time because the Mabrey incident was so blatantly offensive. She had no basketball reason to be near Clark, much less body check her to the ground. It was pure retaliation intended to intimidate and possibly hurt her, but according to these dishonest referees, that's just good old-fashioned basketball. Here's where the report gets completely ridiculous, though, as they somehow managed to award Caitlin Clark a technical foul for acting unsportsmanlike after being clawed in the eye and body checked to the ground. It is hardly sportsmanlike to be attacked and then hold your wounded eye while attempting to flee your attackers. What precisely was she expected to do in that circumstance?
Can you specifically detail what you mean by get control of the game, just to be in your words?
Get control of the game is call the fouls that are actually happening on the floor. Right, and consistently call the fouls that are actually happening on the floor. Okay, not just if somebody swings and misses, right? Consistently call the fouls.
The referees effectively punished Clark for being the victim of assault. She was scratched in the eye, belly bumped by Sheldon, and then blindsided by Mabrey while she was holding her injured eye. It seems that the referee did not take this abuse quietly enough for her to approve of, which is the most ludicrous form of victim blaming. The referees thought Tina Charles's technical foul explanation was similarly strange. Pointing at someone and moving toward them now constitutes unsportsmanlike behavior deserving of a technical penalty because Charles raced towards Caitlin in an unsportsmanlike manner, but grabbing someone's eye and body and checking them to the ground is just standard basketball contact. The Sophie Cunningham flagrant 2 explanation was the only one that made sense, which ironically demonstrated how incorrect all the other calls were when they claimed her touch was needless and excessive, which was unquestionably the case. The double standard is so blatant that it is offensive. In response to what had been done to Clark, Sophie seized Sheldon by the neck. The distinction is that Sophie's conduct was rightly called for, whereas the initial assaults were downplayed. The referees acknowledged that they lost control of the game and claimed that it escalated because they had not handled the previous incidents appropriately. However, rather than accepting responsibility for their mistakes, they found ways to place the blame on everyone but the players who actually caused the issues. Lindsay Allen's ejection for fighting was another joke. She became involved in the altercation after Sophie pursued Sheldon, but her contribution to the game was insignificant in comparison to what others had done. Nevertheless, she was ejected, while Mabry, who carried out the most heinous assault, was allowed to continue playing. The selective enforcement was glaringly apparent. When reporters attempted to get Clark to comment on the officiating, Coach Stephanie White handled the situation flawlessly during the post-game press conference. She shielded her star player from having to deal with the political minefield of berating referees while making it apparent that the officiating was unacceptable. White's remarks regarding the referees were devastating because they were delivered with professional restraint, but were damning nonetheless. She claimed that the officials knew things were getting out of control from the first quarter, but were unable to control the situation. In essence, she accused them of being incompetent while preserving plausible deniability. The cruelest part of White's remarks was when she claimed that everyone in the league was improving except for the officials. She complimented the players on their increased strength, speed, and athleticism before jokingly claiming that the referees hadn't kept up with the game's development. It was diplomatic destruction. White's strategy was brilliant because she strengthened the league and players while blaming the referees. She didn't disparage other teams or the WNBA as a whole. Instead, she made it apparent that the only problem was officiating proficiency, which makes it more difficult for the league to brush off her concerns as prejudiced grievances. Every coach in the league has been complaining about refereeing, proving that this is more than simply an Indiana fever issue. When everyone agrees that the referees are not doing their jobs well, it becomes impossible to write this off as team-specific bias or sour grapes. The issue is systemic and evident to all parties involved. What's even more frustrating is that this situation could have been avoided if the referees had simply ejected Sheldon after her eye-gouging attack. This would have prevented all of the drama that followed. Sophie Cunningham wouldn't have felt the need to retaliate, and the game could have gone on without incident. Instead, their failure to appropriately punish the initial assault made players feel as though they had to police themselves. By making it clear that attacking Clark would have repercussions, Sophie effectively did the referee's job for them. She took one for the team because the officials wouldn't protect their star player. Throughout her second season, the pattern of calling Clark's games has been continuously problematic. She frequently receives contact that would cause other players to receive flagrant fouls, and her responses to being attacked in some way call for technical fouls. Basketball fans worldwide are watching how the WNBA handles its biggest star and find it embarrassing when officials openly discriminate against your most marketable player. This undermines the league's credibility globally, and the social media response to this referee report has been overwhelmingly negative for the WNBA. When your officiating becomes a laughingstock, it affects the perceived legitimacy of competition results. The double standard is so entrenched that it's become predictable. The most concerning aspect of this whole situation is how it interferes with Clark's ability to play her natural game because she knows officials won't treat her fairly. She must change how she plays to avoid getting hurt, which lowers the standard of basketball for everyone watching. It's also concerning because it sets a dangerous precedent for future games if players know they can target Clark without fear of serious repercussions while anyone who defends her is ejected. the referees have effectively removed Clark's protection and painted a bullseye on her back. This officiating bias has astounding business ramifications. The fact that this occurred during a nationally televised game only makes it worse. Clark is the most popular player in women's basketball, drawing millions of spectators and packing arenas. When referees put her in situations that could hurt her or impair her performance, they are jeopardizing the league's most valuable asset. The fact that casual viewers watched Clark get assaulted while the referees punished her for being a victim isn't exactly the kind of content that fosters enduring audience devotion. There should be severe repercussions for the referee crew's actions during this game. When officials expose themselves thus severely, accountability is warranted. Their official report essentially acknowledges several failings while attempting to defend blatantly biased actions. The WNBA is currently attempting to negotiate new media rights deals and establish itself as a respectable professional sports organization, so the timing of this catastrophe couldn't be worse. When prospective partners witness this level of officiating dysfunction, it seriously casts doubt on the league's ability to handle the situation. Comparable circumstances in other professional sports make it difficult to discover anything as obviously skewed. Even in leagues when officiating is problematic, referees rarely publicly acknowledge their mistakes, while also placing the blame on the people who are harmed. Clark should be concentrating on improving her game and helping her team compete for championships, but instead she's dealing with referees. The difference between how this situation was handled and similar incidents involving other players is striking. When lesser-known players get into fights, the referees usually resolve the conflict swiftly and fairly, but when it involves Clark, the situation seems to escalate and get handled poorly. This level of incompetence is almost unprecedented. When other leagues and players witness how the WNBA handles its biggest star, it influences their opinion of American women's basketball as a whole. This type of bias doesn't remain within one organization, and the international basketball community is also taking notice of this scenario. The most frustrating part about this referee report is that it supports all of the complaints made by supporters regarding biased refereeing. In essence, the referees acknowledged that they had treated Clark differently, but they somehow believed that their justifications justified their behavior. When your own officials reveal themselves as biased in their official explanations, it undermines the legitimacy of every game they officiate. Fans begin to wonder whether competition results are legitimate or predetermined. The fact that we're even having this discussion at all shows how far the WNBA still has to go in terms of professional officiating standards. It's like admitting to a crime while maintaining your innocence. The long-term harm this does to the WNBA's credibility is incalculable. Successful sports leagues don't have referees who publicly acknowledge bias while attempting to defend it. Instead, they keep up the illusion of expertise and fairness. This referee report, which offers written evidence of what fans have been complaining about biased officiating while also making the problem worse with absurdly poor justifications, will likely go down as one of the most damning documents in WNBA history. The league's reputation has suffered greatly in the immediate wake of this report's release, and sports commentators, business experts, and casual observers are all expressing disbelief at the referee's explanations. Looking ahead, this situation is likely to influence how other teams approach playing against Clark if they know the referees won't protect her appropriately. Some players may be tempted to test those boundaries, creating a dangerous situation for everyone involved. The most frustrating aspect of this whole disaster is how unnecessary it was. If the referees had simply done their jobs well, there wouldn't be any controversy. Instead, their mistakes created a situation that hurt numerous players, coaches, and the league itself. This referee report solidified everything we've been saying about corrupt WNBA officiating. They literally acknowledged bias while attempting to defend it, and fans are incensed about the double standards. Years from now, when people reflect on how the league handled its biggest star, this document will be Exhibit A in the case for institutional dysfunction and corruption. After this catastrophe, the league's reputation is in ruins. What did you think of their pitiful justifications? Hit the like button. Please subscribe for more truth, and then comment below with your ideas.